There was a time, not so long ago, when one could dismiss Elon Musk as merely another rich eccentric with delusions of grandeur and a Twitter addiction. One could laugh at his juvenile memes, his stock manipulation disguised as jokes, his promises of colonies on Mars while his cars caught fire on Earth. But sometime between his purchase of Twitter and his emergence as Donald Trump's financial patron and technological vizier, it became clear that we were dealing with something more dangerous than a typical billionaire megalomaniac. We were witnessing the formation of a cult, complete with its own mythology, its own epistemology, and its own apocalyptic vision of the future. The cult of Musk operates on several levels of delusion simultaneously. At its base are the retail investors who call him Papa Elon and believe he's going to make them rich with whatever cryptocurrency he's pumping this week. Above them are the tech enthusiasts who've convinced themselves that he's a genius inventor rather than what he actually is, a rich man who buys companies and takes credit for other people's work. And at the apex are the political operators who've realized that his combination of wealth, social media control, and messianic self-regard makes him the perfect tool for their own ambitions. Let's start with Twitter, or X as he insists on calling it, in what must be the most expensive midlife crisis in human history. The purchase itself was a masterclass in self-destruction. $44 billion to buy a platform that he's managed to transform from a problematic but essential public square into a grotesque carnival of Nazis, bots, and people paying $8 a month for the privilege of having their inanities amplified. He claimed he was buying Twitter to save free speech, which in Musk's lexicon means the right of fascists to organize pogroms, while journalists who criticize him get banned. The destruction of Twitter wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate act of vandalism dressed up as reform. He fired everyone who knew how the platform worked, reinstated every banned fascist and conspiracy theorist, destroyed the verification system that helped users identify reliable sources, and turned the algorithm into his personal amplification machine. The result is a platform where lies travel even faster than before, where harassment is not just tolerated but encouraged, where the very concept of truth has been subordinated to the whims of a man who thinks replying to racist memes is the height of discourse. But the Twitter debacle was merely the overture to Musk's political opera. His transformation from Obama voter to Trump financier didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual descent that accelerated every time someone criticized his labor practices, his false promises, or his obvious market manipulation. Like every thin-skinned authoritarian, he couldn't tolerate criticism, and like every billionaire, he decided that the problem wasn't his behavior, but the system that allowed people to question it. His endorsement of Trump in 2024 wasn't surprising to anyone who'd been paying attention. Here were two men who understood each other perfectly. Both pathological liars, both narcissists who'd inherited their initial fortunes, both convinced that rules were for other people, both surrounded by sycophants who told them their every thought was genius. Musk provided Trump with something even more valuable than money. He provided him with a direct line to millions of young men who'd been programmed to see him as humanity's savior. The funding Musk poured into Trump's campaign, the hundreds of millions in dark money, the lottery that was obviously vote buying, the transformation of X into a 24/7 Trump propaganda machine, all of this was illegal, immoral, and completely predictable. When you've spent your career violating SEC regulations, labor laws, and basic decency without consequence, why wouldn't you assume you could buy an election? And the tragic thing is, he was right. The Justice Department that should have stopped him was too timid. The media that should have exposed him was too distracted. And the public that should have rejected him was too entranced by the myth of the genius billionaire. The myth itself deserves examination. Musk has managed to convince millions that he's a genius inventor, a real-life Tony Stark who personally designs rockets and cars and brain chips. The reality is somewhat less impressive. He didn't found Tesla, he bought it and then rewrote history to call himself a founder. He didn't invent PayPal, he was merged out of his own company because his code was so bad it had to be completely rewritten. His Hyperloop is a 19th century pneumatic tube idea that doesn't work. His brain chips have killed numerous test animals. His full self-driving cars have been 6 months away for the better part of a decade. What Musk actually is something far more mundane and far more dangerous. A rich man who's good at taking credit and even better at getting government subsidies. Tesla was built on tax credits, SpaceX on NASA contracts, and all of it on the labor of engineers and designers whose names we'll never know because they signed NDAs that would make the Kremlin blush. He's not a genius. He's a carnival barker with a physics degree and a talent for making the technically illiterate think he's doing something revolutionary. The psychological hold he has on his followers is genuinely disturbing. They call him based when he shares racist memes. They call him savage when he attacks critics with the emotional maturity of a playground bully. They call him genius when he makes promises that anyone with a basic understanding of physics knows are impossible. They've invested not just their money, but their identity in the idea that he's leading humanity to the stars, and they'll forgive any failure, any lie, any cruelty rather than admit they've been had. This wouldn't matter if Musk were just another rich fool with a Twitter account, but he now controls one of the primary platforms for political discourse, has the ear of the president, and commands a fortune that could buy several small countries. His whims become policy, his grievances become law, his fantasies become what millions believe to be reality. He's proven that in America, you can buy not just influence, but reality itself, if you have enough money and enough shamelessness. The damage he's doing extends far beyond politics. His promotion of conspiracy theories has made rational discourse nearly impossible. His attacks on expertise have convinced millions that watching YouTube videos is equivalent to getting a PhD. His transformation of X into a far-right hellscape has driven out journalists, academics, and anyone else interested in actual information rather than engagement farming. He's created an epistemological crisis where his followers believe that mainstream media is lying, but random accounts with names like CatTurd2 are telling the truth. And then there's the environmental hypocrisy. Here's a man who claims to care about climate change while flying his private jet on trips that could be done by car, who talks about sustainable transport while building trucks that look like they were designed by a 5-year-old with a ruler, who promises to save humanity while his factories violate environmental regulations with impunity. The environmental movement doesn't need enemies when it has friends like Musk, who's done more to discredit the cause than any climate denier by associating it with his particular brand of techno-authoritarianism. His recent proximity to Trump has only amplified his worst tendencies. He's gone from dog whistling to air horning, from flirting with fascism to funding it, from pretending to be politically neutral to actively working to destroy democracy while claiming to save it. The efficiency commission he's been promised in Trump's administration, a perfect marriage of his delusions of competence and Trump's contempt for governance, will no doubt result in the kind of efficiency that characterized his Twitter takeover. Essential services destroyed, competent people fired, and everything that makes government functions subordinated to the whims of people who think running a country is like running a startup. The international implications are equally disturbing. His control of Starlink has given him the power to decide which countries have internet access during conflicts. His ties to China through Tesla make him vulnerable to pressure from Beijing, even as he postures as a defender of Western values. His promotion of Putin's talking points about Ukraine reveals either dangerous naivety or something worse. He's become a one-man national security crisis, too rich to prosecute and too powerful to ignore. What we're witnessing is the apotheosis of everything wrong with modern capitalism. The confusion of wealth with wisdom, the worship of disruption without regard for what's being disrupted, the elevation of narcissistic man-children to positions of power they're completely unequipped to handle. Musk represents the merger of Silicon Valley's God complex with Wall Street's sociopathy, wrapped in a mythology that would embarrass L. Ron Hubbard. The saddest part is that some of what he claims to support, space exploration, sustainable energy, technological progress, are genuinely important causes that deserve serious people doing serious work. But Musk has turned them into vanity projects, stock pumps, and political weapons. He's made it harder to have rational discussions about artificial intelligence by promoting hysteria, harder to advance space exploration by making it about his personal Mars fantasies, harder to transition to electric vehicles by associating them with his particular brand of techno-fascism. His followers won't be dissuaded by facts or logic or the mounting evidence of his failures and frauds. They're too invested financially and emotionally in the myth. They need to believe that someone is going to save them, that technology will solve all problems, that the future will be better than the present if they just trust the right billionaire. It's a secular religion for people who think they're too smart for religion, a cult for people who think they're too sophisticated for cults. As I write this in 2025, Musk stands at the pinnacle of his power, Trump's technological consigliere, master of a social media platform that shapes reality for millions, commander of enough wealth to bend governments to his will. But history suggests that such peaks are often followed by spectacular falls. The question isn't whether the cult of Musk will eventually collapse. All cults do. But how much damage it will do before it does. The tragedy is that we had all the warning signs. We saw how he treated his workers, how he manipulated markets, how he responded to criticism, how he wielded power without responsibility. We watched him transform from a purported visionary into a standard-issue oligarch with unusual hobbies. But we let it happen because we wanted to believe the myth more than we wanted to see the reality. We wanted the genius inventor, the savior of humanity, the real-life superhero. What we got was a damaged man with too much money and not enough wisdom, leading a cult of the desperate and deluded toward a future that exists only in his increasingly unhinged tweets. The cult of Elon Musk is, in the end, a symptom of our civilizational exhaustion. Unable to imagine genuine solutions to our problems, we've outsourced our hope to a billionaire who promises to solve everything with technology and memes. It's the ultimate abdication of democratic responsibility, the final triumph of plutocracy disguised as innovation. And unless we find the courage to reject both the man and the myth, we'll continue our descent into a future where reality itself is subject to the whims of whoever can afford to buy it.